The nebula stretched across the dark space like a glowing ribbon of colors. Pinks, blues, and purples swirled together, painting the void with an almost gentle light. Yet, despite its beauty, the nebula held danger. Asteroids drifted silently, and cosmic storms moved unpredictably. In the middle of this vast emptiness, a small, fragile form floated alone. Her name was Leary, and she was an alien child no older than a human's 8 years. Her skin shimmered faintly, soft green with tiny bioluminescent spots that glowed like tiny stars. Her eyes were wide and round, reflecting the nebula's colors as if she carried a piece of it within her. She clutched a small metal box, scratched and dented from drifting too long in space. The box contained her last memories, her last connection to a family she had lost. Her planet, Zarathus, had been destroyed in a sudden attack by a passing fleet of hostile aliens. One moment, her home had been alive with green cities and floating gardens. The next, it was reduced to burning debris scattered through the void. Leary had escaped in a tiny pod, her parents gone, her siblings gone. Alone she drifted, her small body starving, her heart heavy with fear and sadness. The cold of space gnawed at her. She had no food except a few scraps of energy pods she had found among the wreckage. Each day, she rationed them carefully, knowing they would not last. Sometimes she wished she could disappear into the blackness, that the stars themselves would cradle her and take away her pain. But Leary did not give up. There was a stubborn spark inside her, a tiny light that refused to go out. She hummed softly, a tune her mother had sung, letting it wrap around her like a warm blanket. Even in the endless emptiness, she tried to keep hope alive. She drifted past massive asteroids, careful not to bump into them. Her pod was small and fragile, powered by a tiny energy cell that was almost empty. She had learned to maneuver it with gentle nudges, her fingers pressing the tiny levers with care. Even a small mistake could send her spinning into danger. Suddenly, a bright light appeared on her sensors. It was a ship, much larger than anything she had ever seen. Its metal hull gleamed under the nebula's light, and she could sense the warmth of engines humming inside. Leary's heart leapt with hope and fear at the same time. Could it be friendly, or would it crush her if it came too close? The ship slowed near her pod, and a human figure appeared in the viewing window. He was old, with gray hair and a weathered face. His eyes were sharp, kind, and curious. Leary had never seen a human before. She watched him carefully, hiding behind the pod's small shield. The man spoke softly to himself, his voice calm. "What is this? Life sign detected. Fragile, unknown species." He tapped a few controls, scanning her pod. Leary trembled, unsure if she should respond. She didn't know his intentions, but something in his voice told her he might not be dangerous. The ship extended a small mechanical arm, reaching toward her pod. Leary instinctively curled into a ball, closing her eyes. But she could feel the arm gently nudging her pod, careful not to harm it. The man's voice came again, calm and patient. "It's okay. I won't hurt you." Her curiosity overcame her fear. Slowly, she peeked out. The human was looking right at her, and she felt something she had not felt in a long time: safety. Tentatively, she extended a small hand, glowing faintly as her energy flickered. The man's hand came closer, and with a careful, gentle motion, he lifted her pod into the ship. Inside, the ship was warm, and the lights were soft. Leary could smell the faint aroma of metal and fuel, but also something comforting, something she couldn't name. The human placed her pod on a small platform and sat down across from her. He looked at her, not with judgment or fear, but with curiosity and care. "I'm Harland," he said simply. "You can call me that." Leary didn't know how to respond. She only made a soft, clicking sound, the way her species communicated when unsure. Harlan smiled. "It's okay. I'll learn your language, and maybe you can learn mine." He reached into a compartment and pulled out a small container of nutrients. The smell made Leary's stomach ache. She was starving. She hesitated, unsure if it was safe, but hunger won over fear. She floated forward, taking the food with careful hands. As she ate, her body glowed a little brighter, the energy returning slowly. Harlan watched her quietly, making sure she ate enough, but not too much. He noticed the way her small body moved, the way her eyes flickered with intelligence. "You've been alone a long time, haven't you?" he asked softly. Leary nodded, her tiny hands clutching the food. For hours, they sat together in silence. Harlan repaired a small tear in her pod, patched the energy cell, and adjusted the controls. Leary watched him with fascination, amazed at how skilled he was with machines. She wished she could do that too, but her body was too weak. Still, she remembered everything she had seen on Zarathis, the floating gardens, the city lights, the humming machines, and she felt a flicker of determination. By night, or what passed for night in the endless void, Leary finally spoke. Her voice was soft, a mix of clicks and hums, almost musical. Harlan listened carefully, nodding as he tried to understand. He didn't need to know her words yet. He only needed to know that she was alive, that she was here, that she had hope. Days passed. Harlan adjusted his ship's course to drift safely through the nebula, avoiding storms and asteroids. He gave Leary more nutrients and let her explore small parts of the ship. She was cautious but curious, floating from one control panel to another. Harlan watched her learn quickly, adapting to the human ship as if she had been born on it. One evening, as the nebula light glowed through the windows, Leary climbed onto Harlan's lap. He had been teaching her simple words, and she tried to mimic them. "Land?" she said, her small voice shaky. Harlan smiled, his eyes misty. "Yes, that's me. And you? You are Leary." She nodded, her glowing skin brightening a little with happiness. For the first time in weeks, she felt safe. Not just physically safe, but cared for. Someone had taken notice of her. Someone had chosen to protect her. The loneliness that had weighed on her heart began to lift, replaced by something fragile but powerful. Trust. That night, as the ship drifted silently through the nebula, Leary curled up in a small compartment Harlan had prepared. Her tiny body glowed softly, a little warmth returning after so long in the cold void. Harlan watched her sleep, thinking of all the dangers still ahead. The galaxy was vast, and being small and alone was dangerous. But he also knew that together, they might survive it. He placed a hand gently on the console, scanning the stars. Somewhere out there, other ships passed, some friendly, some not. But with Leary by his side, Harlan felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. And for Leary, hope was new and precious, a light stronger than the darkness that had surrounded her for so long. The stars stretched endlessly around them, cold and distant. But inside Harlan's ship, a small light shone, the fragile glow of a little alien girl and the care of an old human. Together they would face the void. Together they would learn, survive, and perhaps find a new home among the stars. For now, though, they rested. Leary slept, dreaming of gardens she had never seen, of voices she had never heard, and of a hand reaching out to her in the darkness. Harlan watched, knowing that tomorrow would bring new challenges. But he also knew that something incredible had already begun, a bond that could cross species, a spark of life and courage that might change both of their destinies forever. And so, alone in the vast nebula, two unlikely travelers rested. One, a fragile alien child, starved and lost. The other, an old human man, wandering the stars in quiet solitude. Together, they began a journey neither had expected, a journey of trust, courage, and the quiet magic of companionship. The ship hummed quietly as it drifted through the colors of the nebula. Leary had begun to feel safe aboard. The warmth of the ship's lights and the gentle hum of its engines were new to her, comforting after weeks of floating alone in the cold void. She still missed her home, Zarathus, and the family she had lost, but for the first time, she felt that she might survive. Harlan, the old human who had found her, moved through the ship with careful steps. He checked the energy levels, scanned for nearby obstacles, and ensured the tiny pod she had arrived in was securely stored. Every movement was calm, deliberate. He had seen danger many times in his life among the stars, but this was different. This small alien girl required more than skill with a ship. She required care, patience, and trust. Leary watched him from a small observation platform. Her glowing spots pulsed faintly with curiosity. She had begun mimicking his actions, touching buttons and levers with small, careful movements. Her species had a natural affinity for sensing energy and movement, and she was learning to use the ship's controls almost instinctively. Yet she was cautious. One wrong move could damage the ship, or herself. "Careful, little one," Harlan said, noticing her hands hovering near the main controls. "This ship has a mind of its own. You have to learn slowly." Leary tilted her head, her small eyes focusing on him. She had learned a few words already. "Ship? Safe?" she asked in a tiny voice, trying to mimic his language. "Yes," Harlan replied, smiling softly. "Safe for now. I will make sure of it." The old human knew the nebula was beautiful but dangerous. Asteroids drifted silently, and solar winds could push a small ship off course without warning. He adjusted the ship's shields and engines, preparing for any sudden turbulence. Leary watched him work, fascinated by his skill and calmness. He reminded her of the teachers on Zarathus, the ones who had guided her in learning to use her abilities. Perhaps, she thought, this human could teach her too. Harlan prepared a small corner of the ship as a place for Leary to rest. He added soft padding, gentle lights, and a small nutrient station where she could feed herself safely. At first, Leary was hesitant. She had been alone so long that she had forgotten how it felt to be cared for. But slowly she began to trust the small space. She spent hours exploring, learning the different sounds of the ship, the patterns of the engines, and the feel of zero gravity as she floated from one corner to another. One day, as the ship passed near a cluster of floating asteroids, Harlan noticed Leary staring at the sensors. "What do you see?" he asked, curious. Leary's small voice responded in clicks and hums, her glowing skin brightening slightly. "Danger, rocks, fast." Harlan watched the sensors and realized she was right. A small field of debris was drifting across their path faster than the ship's autopilot could handle. "Good eyes," he said, adjusting the course manually. With Leary's help, he navigated the ship through the tight cluster. The ship shuddered slightly, but no damage was done. Leary's pride glowed brighter than her bioluminescent skin had ever shown. "You are clever," Harlan said. "Clever and brave. I think we'll make a good team." The words made Leary feel something she had not felt in a long time. Belonging. She smiled faintly, a tiny gesture, but it was full of meaning. Harlan noticed, and he smiled back. He could see that trust was growing slowly but surely. Days turned into weeks. Leary learned the human language slowly, mimicking simple words and phrases. She learned to feed herself from the nutrient station and began to understand the basic mechanics of the ship. Harlan taught her about stars, planets, and navigation. She was a quick learner, absorbing information faster than he expected, but the universe was not yet kind. One morning, the sensors detected an unknown ship approaching. Harlan frowned. "Stay inside," he instructed. "This could be trouble." The ship drew closer, and Harlan recognized the design. Smugglers. Their kind had been known to capture rare aliens and sell them for profit. Harlan tightened the shields and prepared the ship for evasive maneuvers. Leary hid behind him, glowing softly, unsure of what was happening. "Do not be afraid," Harlan whispered. "We will get through this together." The smuggler's ship fired a warning beam, attempting to force them out of the nebula. Harlan's experience came into play. He maneuvered the ship with precision, weaving through the asteroid clusters. Leary's small body pulsed with nervous energy, but she instinctively used her alien senses to detect safe paths through the debris. Together, they worked as a team. Harlan adjusted the ship's trajectory, while Leary pointed out hazards and openings. The smugglers struggled to follow, their ship crashing into asteroids as they miscalculated the path. Harlan and Leary emerged from the cluster unscathed. "That was amazing," Harlan said, looking at Leary. "You saved us." Leary's tiny hands hovered over her chest. She didn't fully understand the words yet, but she felt proud. For the first time, she realized that her abilities, combined with Harlan's skill, could overcome danger. They were stronger together. After the chase, they found a quiet space station to dock and rest. Leary wandered slowly through the corridors, marveling at the human technology. She had seen cities on Zarathus, but humans built differently. Machines hummed, lights flashed, and everywhere she went, there was a sense of life. Machines, humans, and the strange, comforting smell of food. Harlan guided her gently. "Take your time," he said. "There is nothing to fear here." Leary observed, curious about the humans she had never known. Some were busy trading, others were repairing ships, and a few looked at her with surprise. She realized she was unusual here, small and glowing, unlike any species on the station. Yet, Harlan walked beside her confidently, and she felt safe because he was there. That evening, Harlan found a small, quiet room where they could rest. He had prepared a corner with soft padding and gentle lights. Leary curled up, her small body glowing faintly, and Harlan sat nearby, keeping watch. The stars outside the station window stretched endlessly, but inside, for the first time in weeks, Leary felt a sense of home. As she drifted to sleep, she thought of Zarathus, of the gardens and the songs, and of her family. The memories were bittersweet, but they also reminded her why she needed to survive. She was no longer completely alone. There was Harlan, and together, they could face whatever challenges the universe held. Harlan looked at her sleeping form, feeling a strange mix of responsibility and pride. He had spent many years wandering the stars alone, seeing danger and cruelty everywhere. But this tiny alien, fragile as she was, had reminded him of something he had almost forgotten: hope. The universe might be harsh, but life could still be gentle. And so in the quiet of the station, the unlikely pair rested. One, a small alien girl, recovering from starvation and loss. The other, an old human man, finding purpose in care and companionship. Together, they were learning that even in the vastness of space, trust and kindness could create light stronger than any darkness. Leary dreamed that night of floating gardens and warm lights, of songs she remembered from long ago. She dreamed of friendship and safety, of hands reaching out in the darkness to guide her. And when she woke, she was ready to face the next challenge, not alone, but with Harlan by her side. The universe was still dangerous. Smugglers, storms, and unknown travelers waited in the dark. But Leary was learning to trust, to use her abilities, and to grow stronger. Harlan was learning, too, how much courage and cleverness could reside in someone so small. Together, they were beginning a journey that would take them to new worlds, teach them new skills, and build a bond that could cross species, distance, and even danger itself. For now, though, they rested, watching the stars. The nebula glowed around them, a reminder that the universe was both beautiful and perilous. And inside Harlan's ship, a small alien girl and an old human man began to write the first chapter of a story that neither could have imagined, one of courage, hope, and the quiet power of companionship. The hum of the ship's engines filled the small cabin as it glided through space. Outside the windows, the stars stretched endlessly, like a silver river flowing through darkness. Leary floated gently near the observation deck, her small green body glowing faintly as she watched the lights of distant planets pass by. She had grown stronger since Harlan had found her. Her hunger no longer gnawed constantly, and her fragile glow pulsed steadily, full of life. Harlan sat across from her, repairing a small communication panel. His hands moved skillfully over wires and circuits, adjusting and connecting pieces with the calm precision of someone who had spent decades traveling the stars. Leary watched him, fascinated. She loved the way humans built things, how even the smallest tools seemed to have a purpose. Slowly, she moved closer, reaching out to touch a lever. "Careful," Harlan warned gently, noticing her curiosity. "This isn't a toy. But yes, you can learn. I'll show you." Leary's glowing spots brightened with excitement. She had never been allowed near machines before. On Zarathis, only trained adults could operate complex technology. But Harlan wasn't just teaching her about machines. He was teaching her about trust. And for Leary, trust was a fragile thing, almost forgotten after weeks of being alone. Over the next few days, Leary learned quickly. She could adjust minor controls on the ship, navigate small corridors, and even manage basic communications. Harlan showed her how to read the sensors, how to track small objects floating in space, and how to understand the subtle shifts in energy that could signal danger. Leary's natural alien senses made her a fast learner. She began to anticipate movements, notice hidden threats, and detect small variations in the ship's energy flow before Harlan even saw them. "You're impressive," Harlan admitted one day. "Most humans, or aliens, would take months to learn what you've mastered in days." Leary tilted her head, glowing brighter with pride. She didn't fully understand all the words yet, but she understood the meaning. Harlan wasn't just speaking to her, he was acknowledging her value. For the first time, she felt that she mattered. Their bond grew stronger each day. Leary learned to mimic human behaviors, sitting in chairs, holding small tools, even speaking simple words. Harlan learned to listen to her clicks and hums, understanding meaning from tone and gesture. They communicated in a mix of words, gestures, and feelings, slowly bridging the gap between species. But space was rarely calm for long. One morning, the ship's sensors detected an unusual energy reading nearby. Leary hovered over the console, her small fingers brushing the glowing panels. "Something moving." "Fast," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. Harlan studied the readings. "You're right," he said. "It's too fast to be a natural object. We need to be careful." The two of them prepared the ship, adjusting shields and checking propulsion. Harlan was impressed by Leary's instinctual caution. Even though she was small and young, she had survived space alone for weeks. Her ability to sense danger had kept her alive. Now it was keeping both of them safe. Suddenly, the source of the energy revealed itself. A sleek, unfamiliar ship, moving quickly toward them. Harlan recognized it immediately. It was a patrol vessel from a nearby mining station. They were not necessarily hostile, but humans and aliens often treated unknown life forms with suspicion. The vessel's sensors were active, scanning their ship. "Stay calm," Harlan said. "We don't want trouble, but we need to show them we're not dangerous." Leary floated closer to him, her small body glowing brighter with fear. They... big... scary, she whispered. I know, Harlan replied gently. But we faced them together. Trust me. The patrol vessel hailed them. Harlan responded carefully, using a calm voice. We are passing through peacefully. No harm intended. For several tense minutes, the vessel scanned their ship. Leary watched, fascinated by the technology, the lights, and the energy waves that moved across the hull. She realized that humans had built machines to understand the universe, to detect danger before it arrived. It was similar to the ways her species had once used energy senses to survive, but much larger and more complex. Finally, the patrol vessel moved on, satisfied that they were harmless. Harlan exhaled slowly, glancing at Leary. See? Sometimes words and patience are just as powerful as weapons. Leary glowed softly, understanding the lesson. She had always relied on instinct and speed, but now she realized that cooperation and trust could also protect her. She floated closer to Harlan, wrapping her small glowing appendages around his arm in a gesture of gratitude. Harlan smiled, feeling a warmth in his chest he hadn't felt in years. The next few days were filled with learning and exploration. Harlan took Leary to the cargo bay, showing her how to repair small drones, inspect energy cells, and even navigate using the ship's charts. Leary absorbed every detail, asking questions in clicks and hums, pointing to things she didn't understand. Harlan answered patiently, careful to explain in simple words. One afternoon, while floating near the observation deck, Leary asked a question that surprised Harlan. You... alone? She said. Why, no family? Harlan paused, glancing at the distant stars. Memories of his own lost family flickered in his mind. Decades of wandering the stars after tragedy, living a life of solitude. He hadn't spoken of it in years. I lost them, he said quietly. Many years ago. That's why I travel alone. I help people I find along the way, but I never expected to meet someone like you. Leary's glowing skin brightened. She didn't fully understand loss, but she understood loneliness. You... kind, she said softly. Harlan smiled, feeling a lump in his throat. I try, he said. And you're brave, smart, and strong in ways I didn't expect. For the first time, Leary felt that humans weren't just strange creatures with odd habits. They could be compassionate, patient, and protective. She began to trust Harlan completely, not just because he fed her or kept her safe, but because he respected her, valued her, and treated her as an equal, despite her small size and fragility. Their routine continued. But space was never quiet for long. One day, Harlan detected a distress signal from a nearby asteroid belt. Ships rarely traveled there, and the signal was weak, distorted by cosmic interference. Harlan frowned. Someone's in trouble, he said. We should help if we can. Leary's glowing skin pulsed with excitement and nervousness. Danger? Maybe? She asked. Yes, Harlan admitted, but helping others, it's worth the risk. They navigated toward the source of the signal, finding a small mining vessel trapped under a collapsing asteroid. The miners were alive but trapped, their energy supply failing. Harlan quickly calculated a rescue plan, and Leary assisted by sensing the safest path through the debris. Together they moved swiftly, avoiding falling rocks and energy surges. When they reached the miners, Harlan extended a robotic arm to help them aboard. Leary used her small size and agility to guide them through tight spaces, glowing brightly to signal safe passages. The miners were amazed, both by Harlan's skill and the small alien child who seemed to anticipate every hazard. Who is she? One miner asked, wide-eyed. She's my companion, Harlan said simply, "and she's the reason we got here safely." The rescue was a success. As they left the asteroid belt, the miners thanked them profusely. Leary floated quietly beside Harlan, glowing softly. She didn't understand all the words of gratitude, but she understood the feeling. Together, they had saved lives. Together, they were stronger. That night, Harlan and Leary rested in the quiet of their ship. Leary curled up near a window, gazing at the stars. She thought of Zarathus and the family she had lost, but she also thought of Harlan, of the lives they had saved, and of the strange warmth she felt when he spoke to her kindly. For the first time, she felt that the galaxy could be a place of hope, not just danger. She realized that even small creatures, humans or aliens, could make a difference if they trusted each other, worked together, and faced challenges with courage. Harlan looked at her, his old eyes reflecting the nebula's colors. He thought about the journey ahead, the dangers, the unknown worlds, and the mysteries waiting to be discovered. But he also thought about Leary and her remarkable resilience. She had survived alone in space, learned quickly, and now trusted him completely. She was not just a passenger, she was a partner. And in that moment, Harlan understood something he hadn't realized in decades. Hope was not just about survival, it was about connection, trust, and the courage to face the universe together. As the ship drifted silently through the stars, the unlikely pair slept, knowing that tomorrow would bring new challenges. Smugglers, storms, and unknown travelers would test them again. But Leary was no longer a fragile, starving child. She was learning to trust, to fight when necessary, and to use her abilities for good. And Harlan had found in her a companion, a guide, and a reminder of what humanity and kindness could achieve in a vast, unpredictable galaxy. For now, though, they rested, glowing softly in the quiet hum of the ship. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly. Inside, a bond of trust and courage grew stronger every day, a bond that would carry them through the challenges ahead and perhaps, someday, to a place they could call home. The ship glided quietly through a dense star cluster, the nebula's colors reflecting softly on its metallic hull. Leary floated near the observation deck, her small green body glowing faintly. She had grown stronger and more confident, learning not only the ship's controls, but also the ways of human communication and problem-solving. Yet, she knew the galaxy was never fully safe. Danger often came without warning. Harlan sat at the control console, checking energy levels and navigation charts. The old man had grown to rely on Leary's instincts as much as his own experience. Her ability to sense subtle changes in energy, detect debris, and predict movement had saved them more than once. He glanced at her, a smile crossing his weathered face. "Ready for another lesson?" he asked. Leary's small hands hovered over the glowing control panels. "Yes. Learn," she said softly, her voice a mix of clicks and words she had learned. She floated beside him, eager to help, eager to prove herself. But the quiet of space was deceptive. A sudden alert flashed on the ship's sensors. Harlan leaned forward, frowning. "Unknown vessel approaching, fast." Leary's glow intensified with alertness. "Danger. Fast. Big," she said, her voice trembling slightly. She floated closer to Harlan, ready to assist. The approaching vessel was sleek and black, moving with precision and speed. Harlan immediately recognized it as a group of space smugglers known for capturing rare creatures to sell them across the galaxy. Leary's small body trembled, but she did not hide. Her instincts kicked in. "Stay calm," Harlan whispered. "We face this together." The smugglers fired a warning beam, scanning the ship. Harlan maneuvered quickly, weaving through an asteroid field. Leary's glowing appendages pointed out hidden rocks and dangerous energy pulses. With her help, Harlan adjusted the ship's trajectory perfectly, avoiding collision. The smugglers tried to chase them through the narrow passages of the asteroid field. Their ship was faster and more aggressive, but Leary's guidance allowed Harlan to anticipate each move. She learned to trust her own instincts, her small size and agility becoming a powerful asset. "You're amazing," Harlan said, glancing at her as she hovered near the sensors. "I've never had a partner like this before." Leary's glow brightened slightly, pride and courage mixing in her tiny body. "We work together," she said. Hours passed as the chase continued. The smugglers fired warning blasts, attempting to force them into a trap. Harlan's experience and Leary's instinct worked in harmony. They dodged asteroids, skidded past glowing space debris, and navigated narrow energy streams. Leary noticed a small energy surge near the ship's hull. "Harlan, front, shield weak," she warned. Harlan adjusted immediately, reinforcing the shields. The smuggler's ship tried to exploit the weak point, but Leary had already detected it. Her quick thinking saved them from a potentially catastrophic hit. "You've got eyes like a hawk," Harlan said, smiling under the tension. "I'm glad you're with me." Leary floated near the console, feeling a rush of adrenaline. She realized that courage was not about strength alone, but about using what she had, her mind, her senses, and her trust in Harlan, to face danger. The universe was vast, and threats were everywhere, but together, they could survive. Finally, after hours of careful maneuvering, the smugglers lost track of them, crashing into a distant asteroid cluster. Harlan exhaled deeply, wiping sweat from his brow. "That was too close," he muttered. Leary's small body glowed brightly, a mix of relief and pride. "We safe," she said softly. She floated close to Harlan, her small hands brushing his arm. "Yes, for now," Harlan replied. "But danger will come again. That's the life of the stars." The two of them docked at a quiet space station to rest. Leary explored cautiously, fascinated by the humans and machines around her. She had learned to recognize threats, understand basic technology, and anticipate danger. But the station felt safe, almost like a temporary home. Harlan found a quiet room where they could rest. He prepared a small corner with soft padding and gentle lights for Leary. She curled up, glowing softly, reflecting on the day's events. She had survived a real test of courage, more dangerous than anything she had faced alone in the nebula. But she had not just survived, she had helped save both their lives. For Harlan, the day had been a reminder of something important. He had spent decades alone, facing danger and loneliness. But Leary had reminded him that courage and intelligence were not measured by size or age. Even the smallest being could make a difference if they were brave and trusted those around them. Over the next few days, they repaired minor damage from the chase. Harlan showed Leary how to patch shields, check energy levels, and monitor ship systems. She learned quickly, her glowing skin pulsing with concentration. Leary's trust in Harlan had grown stronger than ever. She no longer feared the unknown because she knew he would face it with her. One evening, as they floated quietly in orbit around a small planet, Harlan spoke. "You've grown so much in just a few weeks," he said. "You're no longer just a little alien lost in space. You're clever, brave, and part of this ship, part of this crew." Leary tilted her head, glowing softly. "Part crew?" she asked. "Yes," Harlan said. "We're a team. You help me, I help you. Together, we survive. Together we can face anything." For the first time, Leary felt a deep sense of belonging. She was no longer the fragile, starving child drifting alone among the stars. She was a valued companion, a partner in adventure, and someone capable of courage and quick thinking. The universe was still dangerous. Smugglers, storms, and unknown threats waited in the darkness. But Leary now had confidence in her own abilities and in the guidance of Harland. She had learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act despite it. That night, as the ship drifted silently through the glowing nebula, Leary and Harland rested. She curled up near the observation window, her glow soft and steady. Harland watched her, reflecting on the journey so far. He thought of the dangers they had faced, the skills Leary had learned, and the bond they had built. He realized that the galaxy was vast, filled with challenges and unknown dangers. But he also realized that hope, courage, and trust could create strength greater than any threat. Leary had survived alone, learned quickly, and faced danger bravely. Together they were unstoppable. The stars stretched endlessly outside the window, distant and cold. But inside Harland's ship, a small alien girl and an old human man glowed with warmth, courage, and trust. The challenges ahead would be many, but they knew they could face them together. Leary dreamed that night of flying through asteroid fields, dodging dangerous energy streams, and guiding Harland safely through the chaos. She dreamed of courage and trust, of small victories that mattered more than they seemed. And when she woke, she was ready for whatever the universe would throw at them next. Harland, too, rested, knowing that this tiny alien had changed his life. She had reminded him that even in the vast, dangerous galaxy, life could be precious, and companionship could make all the difference. Together, they had faced danger, survived, and grown stronger. And together, they would continue their journey, ready for the next challenge the stars would bring. The bond between them had been tested and strengthened. Leary was no longer just an orphan drifting in space. She was brave, intelligent, and a true partner. And Harland had found in her not just a companion, but a reason to hope, to care, and to face the universe with courage and determination. For now, though, the ship rested in orbit, glowing gently in the nebula's light. Outside, the galaxy was vast and mysterious. Inside, two travelers, an old human man and a small alien girl, rested, knowing that together they could face anything the stars had in store. And somewhere in the quiet, Leary's soft hums echoed through the ship, a gentle reminder of hope, courage, and the strength that could be found in trust and companionship. The stars stretched endlessly across the blackness of space, but inside Harland's ship, warmth and light filled the cabin. Leary floated near the observation window, her small green body glowing softly. She had grown stronger and braver with each challenge they had faced. She had learned to trust Harland completely, and in turn, he had come to rely on her instincts, her intelligence, and her courage. Together, they had survived dangers that would have overwhelmed most others. But Harland knew that drifting through space could not last forever. The galaxy was beautiful, yes, but also unpredictable and dangerous. Smugglers, rogue traders, and cosmic storms waited around every corner. He wanted Leary to have something more than survival, a place to call home, a place where she could grow, learn, and flourish. "I think it's time," Harland said one morning, his eyes scanning a nearby planetary system. "I want to find you a home, Leary, a place where you're safe and can explore freely." Leary's small hands floated over her chest. "Home? Safe?" she asked, her glowing eyes wide with curiosity. "Yes," Harland replied, smiling. "A home where you can be yourself, where you won't have to hide from danger, and where we can stay together." He guided the ship toward a quiet, habitable moon in the system. It was small but filled with possibilities. Gentle hills, glowing crystal formations, and quiet rivers of energy that pulsed like the lifeblood of the planet itself. The surface was covered in soft, moss-like vegetation, and the air, while slightly thin, was breathable for humans and adaptable for Leary's species. Leary's glow pulsed with excitement. She had never seen a planet like this. It reminded her faintly of Zarathus, the gentle hills, the quiet energy flowing through the air, but it was new, full of mysteries waiting to be explored. She floated near Harland as he prepared the landing sequence. As the ship touched down gently on the soft surface, Leary peered out of the window. "Beautiful," she whispered, her small voice full of wonder. "Yes," Harland agreed, "and it can be ours. Yours. Ours." They stepped out of the ship together. Leary's small feet touched the soft, glowing moss, and she twirled with delight. Harland chuckled, watching her move with joy he had not seen in years. The air was quiet except for the soft hum of the planet's energy and the gentle rustle of the moss-like plants. It felt safe, peaceful, and alive. Harland set to work building a small shelter for them. Using the ship's materials and some local energy crystals, he constructed a dome with soft lighting, padding for comfort, and small energy gardens where Leary could play safely. Leary helped in her own way, floating tools and guiding him to areas that might be dangerous. Together, they built a home that combined human ingenuity with alien intuition, a home that reflected both of them. Days turned into weeks as they settled on the moon. Leary explored every corner of their new home, discovering crystal caves, gentle energy streams, and glowing flowers that reacted to her presence. Harland taught her how to use the planet's natural resources safely, how to navigate the terrain, and how to harness the energy flowing through the land for small machines and tools. Leary flourished. She laughed freely, sang softly to the glowing plants, and practiced her new human words with Harland. Her confidence grew, and her small glowing body shone brighter than ever. She had survived starvation, isolation, and danger, and now she was thriving. Harland watched her with pride. She had taught him as much as he had taught her. Through her courage, curiosity, and intelligence, he had rediscovered hope, companionship, and the joy of nurturing life. Together, they had survived the vast, dangerous galaxy and found a place where they could be safe. One day, while exploring a crystal cave, Leary found a small pool of clear energy. The crystals around it reflected her glowing skin, making her look like a miniature star surrounded by light. She giggled and splashed gently, sending small waves across the water. Harland watched, smiling. "You've turned this place into something magical," he said. "It's alive with your energy." Leary's glow pulsed with happiness. "Our home. Safe. Together," she said, smiling. Evenings were filled with quiet reflection. Leary and Harland would sit by the energy garden, watching the planet's twin moons rise and cast silver light over the hills. They spoke softly about the universe, their pasts, and their dreams for the future. Leary told Harland about Zarathus, its floating gardens, its music, its gentle hills. Harland told her about his human home long ago, the stars he had traveled, and the lessons he had learned about courage, patience, and hope. Through these stories, Leary learned about human kindness, ingenuity, and perseverance. She realized that humans were capable of incredible empathy, that they could protect and nurture life even when faced with danger. She began to see herself not as a lost orphan, but as part of something bigger, a connection between species, a bridge of trust and courage. One morning, Harland took Leary to the edge of a gentle cliff overlooking the glowing plains. "Look," he said, "the universe is vast, full of stars, planets, and life. Some of it is dangerous, but some is beautiful. And you have a place in it now." Leary's glowing eyes scanned the horizon, taking in the beauty of the plains, the crystal formations, and the rivers of energy. She felt a warmth in her chest, a sense of belonging she had never felt before. "We live here?" she asked softly. Yes, Harland replied. This is home. For both of us. As days passed, they continued to explore the planet. Leary discovered small creatures that glowed like her, tiny energy animals that hopped along the moss and streams. She learned to communicate gently with them, to understand their patterns, and to care for them. Harland built small shelters for the creatures, guided by Leary's instincts. Together they nurtured life in this new world, creating a harmony between alien and human knowledge. Winter arrived on the planet, not cold in the traditional sense, but a slow dimming of the energy streams and a soft silver glow over the hills. Leary adapted quickly, learning how to maintain warmth using small energy crystals and how to feed the creatures safely. She had grown strong, independent, and wise beyond her small years. Harland watched her with admiration. She was no longer fragile. She was resilient, clever, and brave. One evening, as the twin moons rose, Leary floated to Harland and took his hand. "Thank Harland for home," she said softly. Her glow pulsed with warmth, reflecting gratitude and love. Harland felt a lump in his throat. "You don't need to thank me," he said. "You've made this home alive. You've made my life brighter. Together we've built something wonderful." Leary's glow intensified, pulsing in rhythm with her small heartbeat. "Together, always," she said. Years passed, and their life on the planet became a rhythm of learning, exploring, and caring. Leary grew, her knowledge expanding, her confidence unwavering. She learned to pilot small craft, repair machines, and even defend the planet's energy streams from natural hazards. Harland guided her, teaching her not just survival, but creativity, compassion, and the joy of life. Visitors occasionally came, a passing trader, a wandering traveler, but they were always greeted carefully. Leary's small size and glowing body fascinated them, and Harland's calm demeanor reassured them. Together, they demonstrated the strength of cooperation, trust, and courage. One quiet evening, Harland and Leary sat by the energy garden, watching the soft silver light of the moons. The planet was alive around them, filled with gentle energy, glowing creatures, and quiet beauty. Leary rested her small hand on Harland's arm, her glow soft and steady. Happy," she said softly. "Safe, home, together." Harland smiled, looking out at the stars beyond the planet's horizon. "Yes, Leary, we are home. And no matter what the universe brings, we will face it together." In that moment, the galaxy felt both vast and gentle. They had survived danger, built trust, and found a place to belong. Leary was no longer an orphan drifting alone in space. She was a part of life, a beacon of courage, and a living example of how compassion and trust could create strength even in the darkest corners of the universe. Harland and Leary had discovered the truth that humans and aliens alike could thrive through kindness, courage, and companionship. They had faced danger, survived, and created a home filled with light, laughter, and learning. And as they watched the stars together, they knew that no matter how vast or unpredictable the galaxy might be, they had each other, and that was more than enough. The moons rose higher, casting silver light over the hills, the glowing streams, and the tiny creatures playing in the moss. Leary's glow mingled with the soft light, reflecting hope, resilience, and the promise of a bright future. Harland placed his hand gently on hers, a quiet promise of protection and partnership. Together, they had turned a lonely, dangerous universe into a home full of life, laughter, and trust. And together, they would face whatever stars and planets awaited them next. In the end, it was not the vastness of space that defined their story. It was their courage, their bond, and the strength of humanity and compassion shining brightly, even in the darkest corners of the galaxy.